Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. Now, this subject here, you call everybody in the neighborhood. We're going to talk about debt. Do you have credit cards or do you have debt? If you don't have any debt, then really, you don't need to listen. But all of you out there have some kind of debt. And we got Professor Bill here, and he's going to give you some very, very good information. And I think you better have your mic ready or your cell phone or your pen and your pencil, because this is going to help. We have a half an hour, and Professor Bill, he's going to just about take over. Go, Bill.
Oh, thank you. Ed, nice to see you again. I'm happy to be back here with you.
Yeah, well, tell us about this leveraging to the hilt.
Okay.
You know, really, you had another title, but, you know, people ran away from that one.
Right.
Tell us about it.
The other title was Getting Out of Debt.
Getting out of debt.
Out of debt, yes. Mm-hmm. And, of course, it had a really ethnic flair, if you will. But I discovered that nobody wants to walk around with a book that reflects that they have some financial difficulties.
That's right.
So
I don't want John Jones down there to know, you know.
Right, and so basically I just rewrote the book and called it Leverage to the Hilt, which is a nice way to disguise that I still have financial difficulties with debt, okay? But it seems to be a little bit more sophisticated, because the term leveraging simply means controlling a lot of money with a little money. And so if you think about a $50 a month payment to a credit card, that's $6,000 or $7,000.
Oh, wow.
That's a little bit of money.
And it builds up interest, right?
Exactly, and that's called leveraging.
Hey, wait a minute. We want everybody to know that you are expert. Give us your background, then we'll go on.
Well, the thing that qualifies me most on this topic, I've been in and out of debt 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
so that's my first. That's my first
You've
credential.
Experienced it.
I've experienced it, yes. But I don't think I really got excited about this until I graduated from the University of Chicago with an MBA. And
wait, hold a minute. Let's go back. Who was responsible? I think your mother and father. You told me something about a dedication. Tell us about them.
Well, my
because
mother,
you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of the biggest things in life I learned is that you cannot tell a book by its cover. My father had no more than a 2nd grade education. My mother certainly had no more than a 9th grade education. But my father was in my opinion, a mathematical genius.
Right.
Because he used to gamble, and he knew the odds when they were throwing dice. And he used to win a lot of money. He lost a lot too. But you could begin to see that he had some mathematical stuff in him. And I think some of it was transformed to me. My mother was also a very bright person, if you will. And they used to call her the doctor of the neighborhood, because she worked for
Financial doctor.
No, medical doctor.
Medical doctor.
Yeah, because she worked for a doctor most of her adult life. And so when people needed pills, they'd come up to our house, she had one for them. So she was pretty sharp too, if you will. But that's where I get a lot of this stuff from, is that I've inherited from my parents. Yes.
Yeah, well, basically hand-on. You were in an environment where this was occurring, and was this the thing that drove you to dedicate this to them?
Yes, because I come to realize how fortunate I am, because my mother insisted that it was time for the family tree to get some leaves on it. Okay, and she insisted that I finish high school, even though I worked 1 day a week. And she insisted that I go to college, but I said we don't have any money. So I joined the Army first, and I got enough credits, if you will, to start school.
From the GI Bill?
From the GI Bill, yes.
Hey, that's plus for the GI Bill.
Amen, yeah.
Right.
That's what got me started. And I like to think that when I was in the Army taught me one thing, and it's an old cliche. It really taught me I could be all that I wanted to be.
Confidence.
And yes, it is.
Yes.
And I think I have probably some people say I have too much, but that's okay. I got it. And if I can't be confident about it, I probably will not bother with it. Just the way
And
it
you
is.
passed it on to your siblings,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I have.
Tell us about them. Give them some credit.
Yeah, I have my oldest son is a Dartmouth Harvard graduate, a very successful businessman. My youngest son, who is 20, he's a junior at Amherst College in Massachusetts.
Hey,
And
fantastic.
he's just, I'm proud of both of them, and I have a daughter as well, a couple of daughters, and they.
Yeah, you better not leave them out.
No.
Moms will do you in.
Yeah, they're doing well as well. So yeah, it's everywhere. That's all I can say is that I think what my mother and father started is just starting to blossom. In other words, there are some leaves on these trees, okay? And
Okay,
very happy
well,
about it.
let's get to this leveraging, because everybody I know has some kind of debt. Well, it may be a secret debt, but it's still a debt.
Well, I used to, somewhere in my career, I wanted to be a financial planner, if you will. And so I went and got a insurance license, okay, which is a life and health license. I also went and got a securities license, a Series 6, 63, and 26 licenses. And I was going to set
security, security of what?
to sell mutual funds and
Oh,
stuff like
okay, all right. You have to have a
yeah,
security.
you better be licensed, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that.
Well,
They buy and sell stock and securities.
well, they can buy and sell them, but they can't sell them unless you're licensed.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You can buy
Yeah.
and you can sell them, but you cannot sell them. In other words, I can't offer you, I can't sell you 10 shares of stock without being licensed. In other words, I'd be a broker.
What's the difference in stock and a trader and
Well, you're licensed first of all.
a
John
trader?
Q-
A trader is
A trader,
not licensed.
yes, that's a broker we call them. So the broker is authorized and licensed to sell you stock and buy stock from you, if you will,
Okay.
two trades. Just as a citizen, I can buy and sell for my own account, okay? And then I have to go through a broker who is licensed. That's basically the big difference. I can't walk and sell you stuff because I'm not a broker.
And that's every jurisdiction have requirements for that.
Well, yeah, and every state has different laws
Yeah,
that
right.
applies. Okay.
So you have to check
So
with.
you have a securities license, which is federally based, okay, and then you have each state has a different set of rules relating to securities.
Right, exactly.
So I was licensed there, and I thought that with some of the skills I had, I would begin to help families to build wealth, basically. And I couldn't understand why families could not participate in children's education. You know, we need $130, $150 a month to secure a child's education, and that's assuming they're 2 or 3 years old. I thought they would invest with me for a supplementary retirement plan because
For the children, that 2-year-older, you can do that. That's what you're talking about?
for their education though,
And for the education?
for the college plan, right? And then a supplementary retirement plan because a lot of times, with pensions going out of the window from corporations, all we have left is the 401k, if you will. And so we need a supplementary plan, okay?
So you're advocating that people now start this education plan at age of 1 month. You can go down.
Matter of fact, when you get the first contraction, you ought to be calling up somebody to set up an account. Okay, that's how quickly you need to start.
And because really, too, is cheaper, isn't it? The younger you are, the cheaper the notes will be.
What really happens is that if you procrastinate, and you wait till that child's 17 or 18,
it's too
and
late.
you have to borrow money, and that's a huge expense for you. But if you begin to accumulate money for education when that child is just weeks of days old, by the time they turn 18, if it's done properly, okay, you'll be absolutely fascinated and surprised what can happen Okay.
That's excellent.
And so
idea.
here I was out there wanting to help people to invest money for children's education, invest money for their emergency fund, because I was securities licensed. I
Right.
could do this. I wanted to help them invest money for supplementary retirement plan. I wanted them to invest money so that they could eventually buy a home if they were renting. And I couldn't understand why they didn't want to do business with me.
Well, one thing, I don't think people has been really exposed to
Well,
that.
I was exposing them.
Yeah, you're right, because of the fact that they're not in that environment. When you barely are making it, you know what I mean, you don't.
But they weren't
yeah.
barely making it, because if you look in the driveway, you saw Lincolns, you saw Cadillacs, okay, you saw Jaguars, okay. So what was the problem? And it took me a little while to understand what was going on.
Okay, let's get into this leveraging now.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah, okay.
They were leveraged to the hilt. There was
Okay.
no discretionary income because they were deep in debt.
Okay, so you're going to give us information how to not to get in, have problems like that.
Right, right. Like
Okay.
how to get out of debt
Yeah.
and how to stay out of debt. Well,
Okay, well, let's hear it.
well, that's it's involved. Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing I think is that you have to stop denying that you are in debt. Okay, just because you're paying your bills and things are going along well, you don't have any discretionary income to do some of the things that I've just talked about. You can't fund your emergency fund. You can't fund your education plan, because I know if you're in debt, you don't have the discretionary income to do that. Okay, and so the deal is what?
So what do? You pay yourself first. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, the deal is to get out of debt. Okay.
Well, that would be a way of getting out of debt, wouldn't it?
No.
No.
No, that
Oh, well,
gives you.
tell us about it.
Now you pay yourself first. Okay, that's 10%, right? You can leverage that. Okay, you can take that 10%, which might be $500 a month, right? And you can go in and leverage it to $8,000 or $9,000 more. So no, we don't want you to pay you. We don't even want you to touch that money. Okay. So we want you to come up with a desire or a need to become debt free. We want you to understand that if you are debt free, more than likely you are going to free up $800 to $2,000 plus each and every month. And with that discretionary income in those numbers every month, you know what $2,000 a month can mean to some of these families? There's the education fund. There's the supplementary retirement plan. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on. And we begin to build wealth. And by the time this family, with the kids all gone, by the time they reach retirement age, they have 7 figures sitting in some 401k and can't wait to retire. But as it is, that's not the way it works today.
Okay, tell us about it.
Because what happens when we're in debt, in addition to losing lots of money through interest, the biggest penalty we pay is we lose time. Because we know with a little bit of money and a lot of time, we can change the world. But if you got a little bit of money and no time, too late. You become just another statistic.
Well, what procedure do you? How would a person start this? Because they're going to be on different levels. I would say they're in the child's education level. That's one level. Then basically the school level, and then possibly the college.
Right.
That seemed to me that takes planning.
It takes planning. It takes an understanding. It takes someone to intervene, because we know if we're left to our own faculties and resources, we're going to go in debt.
Right.
Exactly. So somebody
we have to keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly. Exactly. And so someone has to tell you, stay out of debt. Don't get out of debt. Just delay that purchase.
Well, there's basic things that we go into debt and for that most people feel they have to have if they're successful. That's a home and a car.
That's true. And the home we don't consider debt, by the way. The home we separate, but a car is definitely debt. because the car is what we call a depreciating asset. Its value goes down every
Right,
year.
right.
A
Exactly.
home, in most cases, in most years, is an appreciating asset where the value goes up. So that's okay. Okay, we can go in debt for those. But also, we don't want to stay in debt forever with these homes. There are things we can do later after we take care of the credit cards and car payments. But right now, our focus is on becoming debt-free, so this discretionary income that we're spending to reduce debt becomes totally free so we can build wealth with it. That's where we want to go. So how do you do that?
That's what I'm asking
Well,
you.
first of all-
You're the expert. Let's hear
First
it.
of all, I have to get you excited about what are you doing?
Uh-huh.
You know, I had a little webinar on Saturday, and a couple people were there, and they were just absolutely astonished that someone would have a bill that the balance was $2,162. That was the balance. The interest rate was 18.84,
Wow.
and the payment was $36. And they couldn't believe that when we put this on a little calculator to find out how many payments more had to be made, they just couldn't believe that it was 183.5 more payments, 7.75.
And you
That's 15 years more
15 years more.
to pay. They didn't know that. So my question is, if anybody were to evaluate their own plan, right, and they saw a bill that's going to take them 15 years to pay, what are you going to do? You're going to find, you want to first of all understand what happens if I put an extra dollar.
That's what I say. You double up on your payments.
I don't know about double up. We can't double up because we already leveraged the hill. But will $1 make a difference? And the answer is a huge difference.
$1 will
$1
make the difference.
Makes a huge difference. And so that's, again, we come
Well,
back to
that's
this.
based on time, though, correct?
Well, no, it's based on education.
Education. Okay.
Okay.
Educate us.
And so what happens is we evaluate these different bills, and we have these in the statistic we call that an outlier. Okay. We want to find out how many outliers are in your basket, and we can fix those by putting an extra $1 to a month to those and bring them back to the pack.
And your term outliners.
Outliers.
Outliers.
Right.
What category that fall in as
That's
far
a
as?
statistical term that says away from the pack. Everybody else is bunched up here, and there's this outlier out there that's out says we're going to take 15 years to pay back. Everybody else is in the 8, 10, 12 year. Oh, that's even pretty high. And so the outlier is way out here. But the point is, even so, we can develop a plan to get a family out of debt. And it happens all the time. And it's not that difficult, especially if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And some of the factors that lead to you being sick and tired is when you discover things that on this $2,162 bill we talked about, the total amount that you're scheduled to pay back from this day forward, $6,615.
That's the interest.
No, that's just the payback. The interest is $4,400. And the
Wow.
balance is only $2,162.
From the original balance.
Exactly.
Right.
And so if that don't get mad on, then I guess you probably don't want to do anything. But most people will be sensitive to that.
Yes.
So why would I pay back 3 times as much as I owe? Another translation.
But usually those things, anyone that's trying to get them into that don't explain that.
Well, why would they explain it?
The money out of their pocket.
That's right.
That-
Even the credit card laws, which have shifted slightly, will tell you a little bit of information, but nobody reads that stuff. Okay, they tell
No,
you,
the small print they call it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Half the time you can't even find what the interest rate is. And many times they don't even put it as the annual percentage rate. They put it as some very minor daily rate that you have to recalculate. Okay? And so there's lots of little things that they are doing to us to make sure we do not understand how much trouble we are in, okay, with these credit cards
Well,
and other bills.
okay, with the credit cards, is there some kind of government regulations about those things you talked about?
Well, it's truth in lending, okay, and they know the law too. Yeah, they know the law, so they right on the edge of it.
Enforcement. Who enforces these projects?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a consumer protection agency that I know Obama formed one in his first term, I think. And so they kind of have the oversight.
Are they functional?
Oh yeah, you know the House is trying to shut down the funding right now. Okay.
And what what percentage is that as far as the government is concerned? Now, see, that goes into their budget.
Well, yeah, but it's it's not so much that. They don't want anybody having oversight on the corporations. The big banks, okay? The big banks on the credit card.
Okay. Now, you know, we talked off camera about about the big banks, and we know what happened here in Prince George County.
Exactly.
As far as the housing where people lost their homes because of the fact that they were told one thing and they end up 2 or 3 years later where they were actually bounced out the house because they couldn't afford.
They couldn't afford the new payment.
Right. Now, is there a law against that?
Oh, I don't think there's a law. I think the law assumes that you know what you're doing when you enter into an adjustable rate mortgage.
As long as they put it in the fine print.
So
you got to read the fine print. You know, most of us, we get something, you know, we're so happy with the car or whatever it is that we say, oh yeah, I can afford that $15. But what happens that $15 in the small print end up triple.
Right, you're right.
Right.
And so, like I said, you have to read the contract. But a lot of times the contract is written so that John Q. Public can't
understand it.
Exactly.
Right. You need an attorney.
Exactly. The best thing to do is let's get out of debt. We don't have those kind of issues. Okay. Let's become debt free. And so, like I said, I couldn't believe that these families had all these wonderful financial assets like cars and big homes, and they didn't have any discretionary income because they were in debt.
Okay.
And so what I decided to do was to write a book about that.
Okay. Well, tell us about the book. Tell us about, basically you say free up to $800 to $2,000 each month.
Each and every month.
If the average person could free up $2,000 a month, that's fantastic. But here you attach a CD and all of this to it to give them, you know, a lot of people don't like reading, you know, and with a CD they're able to, you know, plug it in, you know, they like that and actually, have you found that to be successful?
Very successful. The CD basically, first of all, you have to understand that most financial problems are mathematically based.
Right. And actually, that's the weakest part of the average person's education.
Is the finance.
Is mathematics.
Right. So I decided that would not be a hindrance.
So the CD was to alleviate that.
Exactly. The CD is a bunch of financial software programs that you need to manage and to become debt free. And one of the things, one of the programs on the CD will allow you to develop your own financial plan, become debt free. It prints it out for you, tells you every month how much each bill gets.
Tells you, it gives you the procedure.
Exactly. Each bill gets how much. And there was a fellow named Larry Burkett, and his son is deceased now, but he was a Christian guy who developed a method to help families get out of debt, and he would order each of your bills by how many payments were remaining, okay? And then he would say, as one bill gets paid, we'll take that payment and put it to the next bill. And as that bill gets paid, we'll take the 2 payments and put it on the 3rd bill, okay? And it was almost miraculous.
I mean, how do you stop continuing the debt? You know, what you're saying, you set up a system. How do you stop
Getting into debt
yes.
while you trying to get out of debt?
Right, that's it.
Okay.
While you try,
Okay.
that's what most people.
Well, there's a simple solution to
Okay,
that.
well, tell us what about.
And by the way, in the book we cover that. Okay, how to stay out of debt while getting out of debt.
Great.
Very simple. One of the things that let's say you want to buy something that costs $500, and you are trying to get out of debt. You have your nice plan. So the rule is very simple. I want you to take 10% of that new purchase, okay? And if you cannot afford to pay that every month, then you can't have it.
10% of the new purchase.
Right, per month.
Per
so
month.
if it's $500, right? If you can't find $50 a month to pay for that, you can't buy it. Matter of fact, if your kids come to you and ask you to make a purchase,
Yeah.
they need $50 a month. They can't handle it, they can't do it. Because what that 10% does, we know that for
10% of whatever the item costs.
whatever it costs, right? We know,
That's the key.
mathematically speaking, 10% on almost any item guarantees it will be paid in a year or less. So that's one way we stay out. The other way is we just have to be tough love and say, hey, I can't do this anymore. I have a bigger goal in life. I need to put money aside for my kids, and I can't do that because I'm spending all of my discretionary income on paying these credit cards and car payments and things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, I like for you to emphasize the fact that an individual needs to start putting a fund for education for the youngsters at the age of 1 or 2.
No, at the age of like 2 months or less.
Well,
Yes.
well, that's what I say.
Yeah, because,
This is very important for the future
Yeah.
because I believe that education is investment in the future.
Right.
Because just like this idea that you have leveraging,
Right.
most people, they don't understand what leveraging is.
Right, and well, two things come to mind when you talk about education. The first thing is there are a couple of plans out there that seem to be very popular, and one of them is the 529.
529.
Okay, savings plan, and it has some drawbacks, in my opinion. But there's another vehicle out there that gives you a little more flexibility. Will probably give you a little better return if you manage it right. That's called the Coverdell ESA, which is the education savings account.
Hey, I want to thank you for being here, and this is very important. This leveraging to the hilt. Everybody needs this. Regardless of whether you're executive or whether you work at McDonald's somewhere, you can still utilize your plan. And I think that the idea that people need to know is education is the investment, and they need to start early. This has been Ed Brown, and that's from Professor Bill. Hey, if you don't have anything to do, leverage your debts. See you in
Say with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite. Unearth hidden passion. So mama, have a good time. One book to be the first family helps to change a life. Book people unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.